'Tis I, your old pal King Chuck. Happy New Year, or should I say, more like, is this year over yet? Only 360 days until the end of 2026, and hopefully by the end of the year, we'll elect some good, we'll get a nice blue wave in. And boy, do we need it now. I guess the only good news I can share with you is Zoran Mandani is now the new mayor of New York City, and I hope that he remains a man of his word as a Democrat socialist and not a, somebody with a D after his name, and, he's a told liquor, if you know what I mean. And, I was really hoping 2026 would start off good, but it did not for me. Because, on New Year's Eve, I had to work. I got up at 3:30 at my usual time, went to work at 5 o'clock. I got off work a little early, but it was early enough for me to do Bee-otches of the year, so I didn't get a nap in. I had to go so I went to my mother for dinner. And then I went home, and it was when all hell broke loose. I was telling myself I was going to sleep in. Not sleep in, but I was going to stay awake for the ball to drop. I was going to man up and, with hardly a wink of sleep, stay up and watch the ball drop. And then at about 10 o'clock, my lower abdomen started feeling like shit, and it started to shoot pain into my thighs and my knees, and yes, my cock and balls. I knew this was not going to be good, so I decided maybe I should sleep it off. Yes, nothing like starting the new year sick. So this is what happened. I told myself at 10 o'clock, I'm going to bed. I don't give a fuck. I'm going to bed. I'm going to set my alarm for 11:50 p.m. 11:50 p.m. And maybe, just maybe, I can get up and watch the ball drop then. Well, I got up, I turned the alarm off, and I tried to roll over to the remote to my bedroom TV, and I barely had enough strength to go there. And as soon as I was able to turn my TV on, the ball, it was the exact moment the ball had dropped. And Ryan Seacrest said, Happy New Year. So, my new year did not start. So anyway, I said to myself, yes, I'm going to go ahead and go back to bed. So I turned the TV off, I rolled over, went back to bed. I wake up at about 1:30 in the morning, having to go pee. And as soon as I walk out, I was instantly cold. Yes, those muscle aches I was telling you about, earlier. Yep, the old flu bug had entered my soul, and I was sick. So anyway, I went pee. I went back I was trying to go back into bed as soon as I could without me just chattering like crazy. So I rolled over, I went back to bed. I felt a lot better. And so anyway, I wake up the next day, and I was still feeling like shit. I had no motivation to get up at all. and it was New Year's Day. I had plans. I wanted to tear down my Christmas decorations. I wanted to get some stuff done around the house. I couldn't. I was. It's like my body was saying, "Sorry, sucker." So anyway, I had to tell my father, who lives with me, yeah, don't expect much from me today. I was just not feeling good. And he forgave me and said, just go back to bed, son. And that's what I did. I went back to bed. I actually took several naps that day. And I think my body needed it. So I go back to bed. And yeah, I was able to sleep. Here's the thing. I wear one of those fitness watches. I wear a Samsung fitness watch. I think it's the Galaxy Watch 7. I know they have the 8 now. And I'll probably get an upgrade this year. I don't remember when I got this watch on my wrist. Probably, it's been about 2 years now, I think. So So the story is, there were times when I was just laying in bed and the watch would tell me that I was just resting and my heart rate was high. That is the indication that I'm sick. So this is what happens. I knew it. They give you like a fitness, a score, energy score. And it was like in the 50s. And every time I took a nap, it did go up a little bit. It ticked up a little bit. And that was my goal. Try to get enough sleep to sleep off this terrible pain. And, I was drinking plenty of fluids, a lot of water. I was drinking Verner's. I ate a couple of bowls of chicken noodle soup, obviously. Here's the problem. The day after New Year's, of course, was Friday, and I had to work. I actually had to call in sick. I was so pissed off because a couple of days earlier, I had to take my father in for a doctor's appointment. So, with all that said, I was so angry that, that I was missing out on important work. So, rest of the story was that I had to call in sick. I wasn't too happy, but it had to be done. And they were like, Saturday and Sunday, I was starting to feel a little bit better. I was starting to be able to do my normal chores, like, take my greedy ass dog to the park. She loves going, we live over by a little park, and she loves it there. She always has to go on the weekends, every time I'm home. And as a matter of fact, when she knows that I'm home, she'll stand in front of the shower and just whine and say that she needs to go to that park. She knows. It's like she's a smart dog. So what happens is I wait. So anyway, Saturday and Sunday were a lot better. Sunday, I was able to finally put the decorations away. And, and watch the last game of the season for the Lions. And my take on, and it's like, here's my take on the Lions. There's always next year. I mean, I'm happy we won against such a tough team like we actually beat them both times this year. I'm glad we beat the Bears twice this year, which is good. It was just too bad, we didn't play like the other, it's like we didn't beat the Packers. We couldn't even beat the goddamn Vikings. And the Vikings, and here's the problem. For most of the season, the Vikings sucked. But now we actually tied them in the division this year. So, anyway, I am feeling a zillion% better. Not perfect, but, it is what it is. So I want to talk to you about the worst thing that did happen this weekend. And it was, of course, the fact that we invaded another country, Venezuela. We invaded that country. We took out their president, Maduro. We sent him and his wife to America. They have pled not guilty in terms, for war crimes and narco terrorism and all that shit they're making up about him. The real reason we are taking him, we took him out, was because of one reason and one reason only, the same reason why we got rid of Saddam back, some 20 odd years ago. Oil. That's right. They control oil. And so now they're saying that we're going to liberate this country. We're going to, like we did to Iraq. And here's my take. This is the story of America. When a Republican becomes the president of the United States, they, look at what happened to George W. Bush. He made up a fucked up excuse to get us into a war. And that excuse was, 9/11. Oh, the terrorists were, all had connections to Saddam. And there weren't any connections. And, not only that, most of the terrorists were from Saudi Arabia. And now guess what the Trump regime is doing? Guess who they're doing business with? The Saudis. They're telling us the Saudis are our friends. And, not only that, you got, the situation regarding EA. They're working with this, they worked with the Saudis to buy them out. And then you looked at what happened not too long ago with, as a matter of fact, Live Golf, LIV. As a matter of fact, I was at Breakaway this year, and they set up a tent. I almost wanted to tell them, you assholes are ruining the game of golf. Because it's all because of what they did on 9/11. It breaks my, you got to remember, Breakaway is an EDM concert. And, a lot of the people at the event were not born yet. We're not born yet when the planes crashed on 9/11, when the attacks on 9/11 happened. And now they're being preyed, these people are being preyed on and being told, that, if you're into Live Golf, it's cool, better than the PGA. The PGA is old. Jesus Christ. Golf isn't necessarily my favorite sport, although my grandfather was a golfer. But here's the thing. I get angry. This is, to me, it further proves that Donald Trump is a worse president than George W. Bush was. George W. Bush attacked, he invaded Afghanistan and Iraq. And meanwhile, over here at home, look at what was going on. We ended up, many Americans ended up bankrupt because they got stuck with dead-end jobs like me. And, I tried real hard to find other jobs, and they were not out there. But then when George W. Bush left the White House and, he was replaced with Obama, guess what happened? It was like the floodgates opened for a lot of people. And, it took me a couple of years to be, escape my boss's bullshit. Of course, he had to retire first, but, that's what Hollanders do. They basically tell you that you're not good enough. And that's exactly what my boss did to me for many years. You're not good enough for a raise. You're not, yeah. And I would have like humongous pores of sweat down my shirt. That's not good enough. But it wasn't just me. It was everyone. It was gaslighting. And I was so fucking thankful when I heard about how he ended up retiring. It was because under his aegis for, the last several years in a row, we had piss poor numbers, and it was all because of his greed. And then his business partner bought him out, and that's one of the first things he did. Started giving people raises. You see, folks, that's how you run a business. That's how you make your employees feel special. Give them a fucking raise. And for many years, I had people making fun of me because of where I lived. I lived in a crappy apartment. And those who knew where I lived, took the liberty of making fun of me. It's not my fault I was there. It was because I got stuck with working for an asshole. And meanwhile, George W. Bush was tap dancing over the fact that, we just invaded Iraq. Oh, I got rid of Saddam. And gas prices were still insanely high. As a matter of fact, I just drove by a bunch of gas stations here in town. $2.99 a gallon. It went up from like $2.40 something the other day. Gee, I wonder why. Oh yeah, it's because we invaded Venezuela. And it was not because of drugs, it was because of oil. And the Venezuelans, they're in the oil business. Hell, they own most of Citgo. Citgo, CITGO, Citgo. To a lot of you old fogies, it was the old city service. Then it became Citgo in the 60s. But yeah, the Venezuelans owned it for many years, and I think they still own it. Yeah, I finally, so anyway, I finally remembered years ago, Pat Robertson told everyone that he wanted to, not Maduro, but the guy before him. He wanted this country to go out and kill him. Yeah. What Christian he is. Yeah. Thou shalt not kill. And yet he's going out telling people that we ought to kill him. Yeah. Thank God he's dead. Pat, I can't, I know a lot of people who gave him money were not the sharpest tools in the shed. I actually used to know a family that did that. Gave him money, and they lived in a really shitty trailer. But you see, folks, that's my point. When we have a president that puts foreign interests in front of our interests, in the great words of my dead friend Dave Barber, they only care about the peanuts while the elephants walk by. That's the Republican Party in a nutshell. And they've always done this, And the fact is that, we didn't I sure as hell did not prosper under George W. Bush. But I did with Obama. And I did great too with Biden. And I don't like it when people come, they're like, these Democrats, they only, they're out there to give money to these thugs in Detroit. And of course, they'll probably, they don't use thugs in Detroit. They use another word. They want to make transgender for everybody. No. Now, don't get me wrong. Yes, there are some bad Democrats out there. And it's like what I said for Bee-otch of the year. There's a lot of really shitty Democrats out there. We got to vote for this year for the most progressive of these people. Don't just vote for somebody with a D after their name. Know what their true value is. Know what they're going to do. Because this is what they stand for. The sad truth is Republicans, like Donald Trump, they don't care about, people, hardworking Americans who work paycheck to paycheck. Donald Trump doesn't care about these people. He doesn't care about the fact that the Affordable Care Act subsidies are skyrocketing for a lot of people. It's becoming it's no longer cost efficient to do a lot anymore because of tariffs, and I'll bet you that the tariffs probably helped to fund this bombing of and taking over of Venezuela. The government, folks, Donald Trump didn't even get approval from the government, from Congress. George W. Bush, he used 9/11 as an excuse. He knew that 9/11 was going to happen. He knew that the planes were going to fly into the World Trade Towers. He knew it was all going to happen. But guess what happened at the end of the day? He used it as an excuse to get us into a very costly war. And Donald Trump, he's not a man of peace. He is a man who is doing everything in his power to put wool over our eyes and say, oh, I'm the man of peace. Oh, I freed the people of Venezuela. Yeah, nice. But what about us? What about the fact that now many Americans, that we need universal health care? We should have had it decades ago. What about, the Epstein files. Are we going to actually get real Epstein files instead of just naming Democrats that were in there? There were a lot of Republicans, I know that. And, not only that, to make matters worse, the people who support Donald Trump only add to the problem. Look, did you see what happened the other day with Ted Nugent? Ted motherfucking Nugent. This is a man who attacked my generation for not wanting to sign up to go to Iraq and Afghanistan. I sure as hell didn't want to go there. That was the only good thing about that war was that there was no draft. Because I sure as hell would be going straight up to Canada if that shit happened. So this is what happened. Ted Nugent was very supportive of that war. And yet this is an asshole who, when he got drafted, shit his pants so he wouldn't have to go. Not only that, we also have to remember what he did. He was for many years, he was molesting young girls. He even had a relationship with that girl, Pele Massa. Remember that, folks. He adopted a 16-year-old girl and became her guardian so he could have sexual relations with her. The guy is a sick fuck, and he hasn't been relevant in over 30 years. And what makes me angry about Ted is the fact that, where I'm from in northern Michigan, they basically worship the ground he walks on. So what happened was a number of years ago, Ted Nugent, it's like every radio station in northern Michigan, where I'm from, maybe with the exception of Rock 105 and 955, because they're They play mostly, you know, rock from like the 80s onward. But anyway, KLT and the Bear, and especially Q100. Yeah, Q100's owner actually appeared on a TV show with Ted. Ted has a show on this ultra right-wing news network. And allegedly, as a matter of fact, Jerry Coyne was on that show with him about a year or two ago, discussing Fred Bear, because Q100 city of license is Grayling, and that's where Ted Bear's old company was based. But anyway, folks, so the story was Ted Nugent made headlines because he trashed pretty much most of the bigger rock stars of today. Even his friend, Tom Morello from Rage Against the Machine and Audio Slave and a few other bands. And in Green Day, in Youngblood, and even Eminem. Because they are a bunch of idiots in his mind. It's like, okay, these people have all done something that Ted, have not done one thing that Ted has done, as far as I know, and that's molest children. That's who Ted Nugent is. He is a sick fuck. He should have been, I don't even know if he's ever been to jail or not. But he deserves to be. It's funny how over in England, if you're a rock star and you were caught sleeping with children, even 40, 50 years ago, you're going to jail. Because you ruined the lives of so many people. And of course, a lot of it was because of Jimmy Savile. But then you look at Ted Nugent, and it's like, and here's the problem. A few years ago, in my old hometown of Traverse City, he appeared at a Night Ranger concert. Yeah, because one of the guys from Night Ranger was in his old band, Damn Yankees, and they remained very tight for years. And he was like, and they played together, and the whole town cheered. And it's like, it made me happy I don't live in Traverse City anymore. Because anybody who has sex with underage girls is not a hero, in my opinion. They are sick. And that's what Republicans like to do. They are very sick people for preying on young children. Let's talk about that instead of saying that this guy sucks or that guy sucks, because they actually care about our democracy. You understand, folks? I mean, I have fought for years to bring a kick-ass rock station to Traverse City. That's why I started Chuck69.com. But no, my, KLT, was all about the white trash that lived around Kalkaska and South Boardman. But they were number 2 in the ratings all this time. And when the Zone finally grew a pair, instead of playing wuss music all the time, guess what happened? They were the Zone's bit. KLT was the Zone's bitch. And by the way, I've come to that real. Yeah, I just heard that WCCW in Traverse City also changed their format recently. WCCW, they were Classic Hits 107.5. And when I was a kid, it was Oldies 107.5. They were Oldies 107.5 forever. And going even further back, they were 92 Gold, because they were at 92.1, and then they moved to 107.5 and boosted power. And anyway, yeah, they've been some kind of oldie station for over 40 years now. And so anyway, over the weekend, they changed their format. They adjusted their format. They're now, I would describe them best as an AC Gold station, basically. I would, and the reason why is because they do, they're now called Good Vibes 107.5. Yeah, kind of rhymes. So the story is, their music is now centered on the 70s, 80s, and 90s. I listen to them, and the music is kind of lame. I hate to break it to you. Not a lot of upbeat music at all. I mean, they were playing, it's like the one time I was listening over the weekend, they were playing Melissa Manchester, which is, not Don't Cry Out Loud. What's that other big hit she had in the 80s? She Talks About You or some shit like that. But anyway, what happened was, the music is, not only is the music could be a little bit better, but the station's imaging sucks ass. It's like it looked like it was all done by a middle-aged female employee of the station. It's so it was so boring. It's like, what the hell? But that's Northern Michigan for you, folks. They don't have that money. Anyway, I can go on and on so anyway, back to what I was talking about. Back to Trump. You see, folks, this is the important reason why we need to vote for a big blue wave this fall. And I know it's heart-wrenching too. It was just announced today that Tim Walz, the governor of Minnesota, he's announcing that he's not going to run for governor because of the scandal that's going on regarding the care centers. And they're crying that, well, they're not being well taken care of, and Somali this and Somali that. And I'm like, yeah, something, man. This is what happens when right-wingers do shit like this. It's all racist bullshit. And, but still, we need a blue wave in this country. We need a blue wave to tell people like Donald Trump, start caring about your people. Because when you start, it's like a father who abandons his own son for somebody else's kid. And that's who Donald Trump is. He cares about somebody else's problem, but he doesn't care about our problem. And I've told you what problems we have. We all know what problems we have. We need better health care. We need better jobs. We need, and not only that, we need tax cuts for the wealthy. I mean, we can go on and on. But Trump ain't gonna do all that. Nope, no way. Because in his mind, it's all about oil. It's all, and of course, with all the cuts that he made on renewable energy. And that's another problem. Donald Trump hates renewable energy. He hates the sight of windmills. He made up this bullshit last week about, bald eagles getting hit by windmills, when in fact, it wasn't even a windmill here in America. It was actually in Israel. And it wasn't even an eagle that was hit. It, Midas Touch did some sleuthing. It turned out it was anyway, it wasn't an eagle that was hit. But that's the thing about Trump. It's all about what he wants, not about what you want. It's him and his rich buddies. And if you want to vote for the Republicans this next election and keep on failing, apparently you forgot what happened in the 2000s. Yes, Trump is definitely making America great again. To him, not to me and you. All right, folks. Enough of my rants and raves for right now. I hope this year does improve. I mean, hey, it will probably improve as soon as all the aches and pains of my flu go away. So, I best get going. And I'm signing off right now. 'Tis I, your old pal, King Chuck. Good day and good luck. Have a good day, everyone.